Hi, I'm Scott. I'm a Quiet Place fan.
Hi, I'm Senthil, and I'm a Bird Box fan.
So the two of us have decided, since we disagree, we're going to start watching as many horror movies as we can and come up with a new way of rate them. Come join us. Hey, it's good to see you again, Senthil. That means it must be a Monday evening and it's time to review a couple of movies.
Let's get to it, Scott.
Well, so I want to start off with the one that I gave to you. So Tumbbad is a film made in India. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, very good. And so it's all subtitles, but don't let that stop you from watching this. So I'm going to just tell you my feelings, and of course, Senthil, like we always do, will talk about his.
So
I actually,
before you dive in, sorry to interrupt.
please.
Is just so you set the context. Is this your Quiet Place or Bird Box?
Well, I want to get to that.
Okay.
And here's why. I actually enjoyed the storyline. I really enjoyed the storyline. And I was sucked in right from the beginning, with the whole weird grandmother thing and why was that, and the whole having to feed them while they slept. And it was just it started off with this very creepy vibe. And then we go forward a bunch of years to a later time when he comes back. So there's this little boy, and his mother tells him, "Don't come back ever again." But he does, because there's a treasure that's there. But how this treasure is gathered, I thought, was the most fascinating thing I've seen in a long time in a film, Simple. So what I will tell you is that it really moved over into my Quiet Place side, which is, and so for those of you watching for the first time, I like Quiet Place. Simple is a Bird Box person. We kind of go back and forth on why that is. And so for me, for this movie, it was a Quiet Place because I love the cinematography in it. I thought it moved along really well, but the whole womb was really a cool idea. And when you're watching this film, there's a whole reason, and I don't want to go into a lot of the detail because we don't do that here. But they create these dough creations that they feed this thing, right? And you'll understand why as you're watching the film. The other thing I really loved about this, Synthel, is there was two parts in the film that they used music to, instead of doing like a montage, they used music to move the story along and to tell you the background of what was happening. I I have not seen something like that. What's your thoughts on it?
Uh, I thought they did a really good job of setting the creep factor, the dread factor that we look for in horror movies, and the concept was a bit novel. They conceptually talk about the womb being Earth, but there's actually
Yes.
a physical place where they go, and they're kind of um, crossing the supernatural with the pseudo religious. I thought it worked really well. I thought the story was compelling and different.
Yeah, and so I also have to say I loved the bright red colors that they used. And so I actually went back and started at the beginning and fast forwarded it, just watched it fast forward. And it's a lot like The Sixth Sense, where the director uses that color red to symbolize things throughout the film. And I didn't notice that until the second time through it. But the whole use of these really deep, I want to call it almost a Merlot kind of reds, and that this creature that lives within the womb is also this maroon color, right? And I have to tell you something. I love the ending of this film. I just love the ending of this film because normally, right, they get away, you get the treasure, woo, but they came up with this idea and it failed miserably. And I thought, that's ingenious. I would never even have thought of that.
The ending was a bit of a surprise to me as well. It did not go in the direction that I expected. Without again giving anything away, there are multiple aspects of that ending that were a total surprise. The plan did not shake out the way
No.
that anybody from the characters to the audience really would have anticipated. And I don't feel like the subtitles detracted from it at all.
I don't think so
Uh,
at all.
you could watch the movie and pick up a lot from the subtitles and the visuals and the way the story was filmed. The To the point where we've talked about this as a characteristic that we look for. I looked up the director. I looked up the history of the movie. And I found that this had been in the works for years. That he
Yes.
rewrote it at least a couple of different times. So good job on his part for finding a combination that works.
Yeah, and I think it did work, Synthel. I mean, all the way from the beginning, this buildup from the beginning with the ancient grandmother to his return back to Tumbal. Okay, so if you're looking for this film on Amazon Prime, it's Tumbbad. So it's got a really unique spelling to it. It is worth a watch, at least in my opinion. I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I wasted any time with it. Like Simple said, the subtitles do not take anything away from this film. I think that you'll have a really good time just watching it.
The one thing I'd add is, comparing to Bone Tomahawk, this had the potential to go the direction of an indie type of adventure movie, but
Yes.
they maintain the dread and the fear and the base characteristics of a horror movie throughout the entire movie. So it ends up not really being an adventure movie. It's a true horror movie.
No, I would agree with you. I think it is a true horror, even all the way up to the ending of it. I thought was just fantastic. So, Cynthia, we had a second movie, and it was the one that you handed off to me. What was the name of that one?
It was called Pungo, A Witch's Tale.
And that was located as well on Amazon Prime. Pungo, A Witch's Tale. And so, Cynthia, I'm interested. What was your take on this film?
So, what initially drew me to the movie, I've been on a streak of looking for very low budget horror movies to see what the creativity of the writer and the director, which are often the same people in these smaller movies, could do. And I reached out to the writer, producer, and director, Philip Cook. And he indicated that they had done this movie for under $20,000, which I did not know before we saw the movie. What attracted me to it is I thought this is based on a real life witch, one of the very last witch accused witches and tried witches in the United States. And is this going to be something in the order of a Blair Witch Project? So that's the reason I first started. Those two reasons. Interested in low budget movies, and I wanted to see if this is somewhat like Blair Witch Project. What'd you think?
So actually, really quickly, I want to go back to this low budget idea of horror movies, right? Because we're starting to see more and more of those as the subscription services pick these up, like Amazon. You've got Netflix, HBO. That they need content, so they're reaching out and looking for these films. And I actually am excited by that because just like in the world of writing a book, it used to be you either had to get a traditional publisher or you were screwed. And so you might have been a great writer, but if you couldn't get one of the top 6 to pick you up, right? So now there's indie publishing, you go publish your own thing. I'm really digging the idea now that somebody who is passionate about film, looking to direct a film, looking to get involved with this, actually has an avenue now to get their work out for people, right? And so for me, Cynthia, as I was watching Pungo, I come back to this idea of the indie director on a budget of 20,000. That's what you got. And it could have been this director's that's their lump sum, man. That was their savings. That was everything they got. They put their dream into a film. And I really enjoyed that idea, that the prospect that we're going to see more of this, especially with COVID, where the studios just stopped producing. But these small directorial groups continue to produce, horror films, horror genre. And I think that's exciting.
I agree. I don't think you go into this looking for a big budget Hollywood, the Grudge kind of scare fest. There weren't really any scary elements in it for me. And there were some, plot points. I think it went just a little bit too long, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was, if you look at it as a creative endeavor by some enthusiastic filmmakers, some of them with experience, in the business. They did a great job. They did a great job on effects with very little money. Some of the effects were very convincing, and so I enjoyed watching it. I would definitely, if you are a horror film enthusiast and are interested in seeing what enthusiastic independent filmmakers can do, this is worth watching.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Cynthia. And what I was impressed with, after you told me what the budget was, the actual effects were pretty good. Especially towards the beginning, as you start to see this witch, coming out of the closet behind her when she's talking on video chat inside the tunnel. Um, I liked that. I really thought that was well done. And because there was that creep factor, right, with the crawling out of the closet. I think that's everybody's fear, is you walk into a room and something crawls out of the closet, especially something that creepy. And then, of course, they had the wind golem that shows up, and they're able to. I don't want to give anything away, anyway. But you look at that and you go, I'm absolutely amazed for 20,000 was there. The other thing is, I thought that the characters were okay too. I really like the female lead character. And I thought she did a pretty good job as being, as realistic as you can be, right? When you're playing, hey, we got transported to the 1700s, and now our house is located on the side of a lake, right? So there's that bit of, I can't believe this is happening, but you have to make it real. And I thought they did an okay job with that.
Let me ask you one particular element before we close. What was interesting, one of the interesting things about this movie is that they get into the supernatural immediately. There's right out of the gate,
Yeah.
several characters see supernatural visions. What do you think about that in terms of of a technique for horror?
So I will tell you, and just speak, to me, there's two flavors of horror, Simple, and you and I have talked about this before. There's the bam, we're going to get right into it. Here we are. And then you've got these slow burns. Like The Lodge to me is this wonderful slow burn. Hereditary, wonderful slow burn. Midsummer, these slow burns where you're going to get to something, this payoff at the end. And then you have things like Pungo, some of the other films that we've done, PJ Gorman, that are bam right out the door. And there is something enticing about that, right? Because if I'm in the mood for horror, and I'm just not in the mood to sit and really focus on the story. I mean, you go back and you look at Hereditary, I've watched it like 3 times. You've got to watch that and capture everything going on. This movie's just fun you can watch it, and you're not having to invest, right? If you stop and you're going to go grab a soda or something like that, it's not like you go, oh my gosh, I've missed a pivotal point. No, this is what I call action horror, right? So it's kind of that thriller horror where, yes, there's horror involved, and it starts right from the beginning, and it's just this, it goes through the entire thing. So there's never a down moment in it, right? But it's not invested. I'm not having to invest myself fully into it.
I agree. And when talking about pacing and approaches to horror movies, there's a movie for next week that I mentioned. Love for you to see and tell me what you think. It's a film by a Norwegian filmmaker called Mortal, and the original Norwegian name for it was Torden, and I know I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So if you Google that, you'll figure out that means thunder. So there's no really secret about what the movie's about.
Yeah.
But the reason I pick this for you is because I'm interested in contrasting it with a movie that we've seen before. And I won't tell you what that movie is until you have a chance to see it. And I thought there were two movies, this one and the other one that we've talked about before, that are very similar, but one is more effective than the other in terms of what it tries to accomplish. And I'm also curious, right along the line of Bone Tomahawk, if you consider this a horror movie or does it fit into some other genre?
Okay, I'm totally on board. Really quickly, before we wrap this up, any movie that we review, you can find links to those movies inside of our video chat, video links down below. Also, if you're interested, you can go to www.offlawn.org. That's where we post our blogs. That'll also take you to our video area where you can go in and watch the other episodes that we've done. Simple, again, it's been a fantastic conversation. I thank you, and we'll talk again next week.
Talk to you next time, Scott.
All right.